What's up, Foos family? Welcome back to On the Table. I'm your host, Chase Pennell, and today we have 10-time world champion, Linda Lee. Linda, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Chase. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining me today. There's going to be a select amount of foosball players out there, probably not too many, that don't know who you are. So who are you and where are you from?
Like I said, Linda Lee. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Been playing foosball since, I think, on the IFP tour since 2009. As you mentioned before, I've got 10 different world titles to my name, 5 of them in open events, 5 in designated mix. So if you consider that an open event, that's in there too.
It's definitely an open event.
But aside from that, I think I've been regularly touring on IFP since probably like 2012.
Okay.
And pretty steady diet of foosball now. Well, maybe not these days, but
Wow,
pretty good.
COVID. Thank you, COVID. All right, wow, Canada. So it's cold there right now. This is being recorded during the winter time for those of you that are just joining us. So it's a little chilly where you are right now, as I'm assuming a bit. Just a bit.
We actually just broke from the polar vortex. It's still cold, but it's not as bad as it was last week. So.
Oh, man, I am so sorry to hear that. Now, in Canada, you guys actually do play on more tables than just the Tornado, correct? Do you, or just others?
I try to when I can, but I don't have access to it. So there are plenty of different other tables. It just depends on what region of Canada you're playing in. So, like, Tornado's still probably the majority, depending on where you are. So, like, Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Toronto, Ottawa, those guys. We all play Tornado primarily, but then if you travel into, like, Quebec and Montreal and things like that, they're pretty Bonzini heavy. There's probably a good chunk of the population in Toronto that also plays on like, Fabi-style tables. So there is a wide range of table play that we have. Me specifically, I try to play on all the other tables, but access stuff. So it's pretty much restricted to World Cup every couple of years. So I'd say Tornado for me, like 99% of the time.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Real quick, turn off the audio on your match.
Okay. There we go.
Cool, thank you. I started to hit play and I heard it. I'm like, cool, pause. All right, we're good.
Cool.
Where are we going to segue to? 2009. Okay. All right, so 2009. All right. What was your first event, out of curiosity?
First tour event, 2009. I believe it was the Hall of Fame Classic. So 2009 was the first time I went. I think USTSA was still running things. So I'd actually gone down primarily for the FIFA League event down there. And then I played a couple of the actual tour events going on at the same time. But that was probably my first actual tournament play.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody always has, like, their favorite event. What's your favorite event? Like, just out of curiosity, is it always Worlds because you have world titles? Is that?
Honestly, that's a very fair thing to say. I would say, so if you're looking for like overall picture in terms of like what's my favorite event to play and compete in, then for sure we're going to say Worlds. You get the toughest competition, the most prestige. If you win there, it matters, right?
Absolutely.
But if you're actually asking me about more having fun or enjoying the atmosphere, things like that, recently World Cup experiences have been in there. If you're looking at in the States for IFP events, I like Colorado State. It's intense competition, but it's like 3 days. So, you can play as hard as you want. Well, maybe not as hard as you want, but you can play pretty hard for 3 days versus like the 4 or 5 day slog of a world championship.
A lot of people like Colorado. I gotta give the Colorado State event props. Colorado and Bartow are like on the top of people's lists every single year. So I can't blame you. Those are all great options. So there's a question that I ask, and I intentionally keep it off of like the list of things I'm going to tell you in advance that we're going to do on the show, that I have asked everyone that's been on this show. And it is something that I and Mark Torres kind of talked about one time, and we think it's true, and I want to know your opinion if you believe the same thing. The difference between a rookie and a top-level expert over anything else is mostly table time. The difference between a pro and even a top pro and a pro master is actually this chasm of knowledge and information and thought process on the table, more so than physical skill. Would you agree with that?
At the higher levels, yeah, I think I would agree with that. You're still going to have that physical ability that a pro master doesn't compare to anybody else. But when you throw in, I'm assuming by the time you get to a high pro master level, you've been playing for a long time. You've got so much more table time experience, matches against all sorts of competitors. It makes a difference because then you actually have to sit down, analyze why things happen a certain way. And that's the difference between, winning an expert event, whereas you can get by without maybe thinking of a strategy, versus winning like a pro event, pro master event, because you need to have a plan for a lot of those guys. You can't just freewheel it, unless your name is Tony and you have those skills. But even then, guys like him, he's been playing since he was a kid. So it's not like that talent came from nowhere. So.
Absolutely. And Tony talking to Tony over the years, he has a game plan going into every single match. He knows what he wants to do, how he wants to establish it before the match even begins. And as crazy talented as he is, people always like, oh, he's just freewheeling. That dude's got a game plan, and he is executing it to a T against 99% of the competition that he plays.
I always wonder about that too, because the first couple rounds that he's playing in open singles, where it's a rookie or an amateur who's won their first round and then plays a master. I always wondered about that, whether or not he actually game plans for like an amateur or an expert, things like that. Because, like I said, he should be able to get by these guys no problem. But I don't know. I guess maybe his game plan is to do anything but his standard play style. But I've always wondered about that.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've spoken to him about it in brief, and every time I talk with him, he basically gives me a similar answer. He's like, I just keep it simple. I either go wall or I go lane, and then I either shoot at the guy or I don't. I'm just like, come on, dude, that's so simple. You can't give me that answer. But he does. He basically says he simplifies, which. I think in foosball is something that a lot of people overlook is the simplification aspect. They think too deep into foosball, 5 passes ahead, opposed to playing and establishing their game plan and executing it.
I think I'd probably have to agree with that. I know I've mentioned it before to certain people. They ask me, how do you stay so focused, or how do you play super intense, or how do you get fired up, or keep yourself calm? Because I've had people tell me, I'm like, oh, you look so serious on the table, you're always looking super focused. But at the same time, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, I might look focused, but inside things are running around at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But then for me to get my best result, it has to be the perfect balance of focus and intensity, but also not putting too much emphasis on pressure or looking too far ahead. Because that always gets me in trouble, I found. The times you look ahead or you try to think more complicated than you should, I'm like, oh, I have to have a game plan on this person. Sometimes, like Tony says, keeping it simple, just I'm going to go wall half the time, lane half the time, mix it up here or there, and leave it at that. So it makes sense to me if you can keep it simple sometimes, but again, like you said, master level versus pro level versus expert level, you got to know when to kick those different strategies in.
Yeah, 100%. So you and I are about to watch your World Championship Finals match against Cindy Head. For the people out there that don't know, this is when Foosballers was going on. So there is more attention on this match than probably normal. More cameras on this match. People watching Cindy. More people. So there's a lot of pressure here. So to speak. There's a lot more outside influence probably than any other match you've played, would be my guess. Definitely any match that I've ever played. So coming up to this match, you obviously had to, you have king seat, or queen seat in this scenario, I should say. I'm so used to saying king seat. It's weird. What are some of the notable matches, I guess, on your way here?
You know what? I actually don't remember a ton of them. I do remember working my way through the winners bracket pretty steadily. I remember playing, I think it was gradual build-up. I didn't have like the crazy weird matchup the first couple of rounds. Like you're like, how do I play you the first round or whatnot? I remember having a matchup, I think it was before getting to Cindy. I'd played another woman. Shoot, I really don't remember the name right now. I remember playing somebody to get to Cindy, I think, and being surprised at who I was playing against. But I was never in a situation where I was like, okay, things are going wrong or things are getting tough or extra tough or super intense until I got to Cindy to play for King Seed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I know a lot of people, myself included, I know a lot of great players. They play with what I like to call blinders on. They and match. They forget about certain matches on their way to get there, and they just kind of remember being in the moment, so to speak. And I think that is a gift. I do.
Well, honestly, it's actually kind of funny you think about it. Like, I could look it up to see who I played going up to that. I keep records of things like that. But now that you mentioned the blinder thing, I don't do it so much now. But there was for a long period of time, including leading up to this match, a lot of people chart watch. So, you'll chart watch, you'll scout a match, you want to know where you are in the bracket, who's coming up next, who do you got to beat to get there. And in 2016, leading up to this, I wasn't doing that. I told myself, I don't care where I am in the bracket. I don't care what seed I am. I don't care who I'm playing next. I just want to show up the table and treat each match the same. Like, I need to win all these. It doesn't matter if I'm playing a rookie or an amateur or a pro master woman. I needed to approach them the same way. Now, looking back on it, being able to scout your matches coming ahead is definitely a benefit. But at the time, I didn't see the hugest amount of value in that. Like, that's kind of, I don't know what the word for that is now, but maybe a little bit of arrogance. But I certainly didn't look at it that way, but I wanted it to make sure that I didn't take any match lightly. So
there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. There's people that scout, there's people that don't. I think there's pros and cons of both. And knowing yourself is probably the best way of deciding which way to go. I don't know that one is necessarily greater than the other, but you definitely want to, I think you have to believe in yourself and understand who you are as a person and the way you play and how it'll affect you if you watch or don't watch.
Yeah. Like, I'll certainly watch more now. Like, I think it's a given. Like, the more people are exposed to your style of play, the more they scout you, the harder it is to play them afterwards. So it's gone to the point where, like, I will scout matches now. Like, I try not to maybe necessarily look at the bracket itself in terms of, oh, I'm playing for third or better. Like, I'm pretty picky, but I'll open up the chart and I'll zoom in so that I don't see where I'm sitting, but I'll look to see who I'm playing next. I mean, you can kind of infer where you are on the chart based on who you're playing next anyways, but there's never anything clearly defined saying, oh, this is a King Seed match. So.
Okay. So you're about to play Cindy Head. Do you have a game plan going into this match? Like, you said you didn't want to scout, right? Obviously. But you've already played her once in the King Seat, Queen Seat match. You're about to play her for the finals. Do you, in your head, before this match begins, go, okay, I'm going to do these things to Cindy. This is my game plan. I want to take advantage of this or watch out for that. Or did you just want to play your style, your game, and see what happened?
Definitely a mix of both. I mean, like you said, I did play her for the King Seat match. I certainly didn't expect it to go the exact same way, but you also know going into it that you're going to get certain things out of Cindy. You're going to get a lot of fight. You're going to get noise. You're going to get her screaming, but you're also going to get a lot of hustle. And she's kind of a player who will throw everything at you, so you have to be ready for the left hooks, the pin pull kicks, the rolling pulls, because she'll throw the kitchen sink at you whether it's working or not, because that's just her style. So I knew I had to be aware of that. I think you have to be aware of that anytime you're playing Cindy. But my game plan going into it was more so focused on what I would do offensively on the 5-bar and 3-bar, and then little things on defense for sure. I can probably mention them more as we play because you'll see the match go on. But I think the biggest focus for me was going to be how I was going to score on her. I've played Cindy a bunch of times leading up to this. I played her in the finals at Worlds the year before, too. Same situation, had King Seat, but I got double dipped. So I knew scoring was going to be the biggest issue because she's got fast hands.
Oh, yeah.
She's a quick mover. She hustles so hard. So
great transition game. She's dangerous.
I remember watching a lot of the matches going into Worlds that year that I'd played her previously, going, what was the biggest issue? And it primarily came down to my scoring percentage on her, like whether or not it was based on how many possessions I had to score. But it just wasn't, I wasn't scoring at a high enough percentage to make it count, especially if she's getting the transition goals on me, like, the left hooks or the junkers because she's hustling me. So that was probably the biggest focus, making sure I can still play my style, which is generally pretty controlled, but not losing focus on what I needed to do to score. Like, if you focus entirely on how to stop her, but don't look at how you're going to score, you're never going to win. So.
That's a really, really good assessment. I like that. Okay. All right. Well, let's do a little ceremonial listen in to Jim Stevens as he introduces you two about to play the finals of the World Championships of Women's Open Singles.
And hi once again, everybody. Jim Stevens back with you here in the pit area at the 2016 Tornado World Championships as we bring you the women's singles final. That is 40-time world champion Cindy Head on the right side. Linda Lee, who has won 3 world championships, looking for her 4th on the left side. Underway here in game number 1. Linda won the winner's bracket. Cindy Head coming from the loser's side. Wouldn't be the first time Cindy has come from the loser's side and won a championship.
So, Jim even mentions it. Wouldn't be the first time that she came back to win a championship from the loser's side. And you're saying she did that to you last year. Or the year before this, I should say. Not last year. Year before this. So, was that a little bit lingering in the back of your head? Like, this girl's already double-dipped me once before. I can't let her do it to me again.
I would be lying if I said it wasn't.
Okay.
I even said, I was really nervous going into the match. I mean, there's always a lot of nerves for me going into any kind of final.
Absolutely.
But it's much more significant when it's a world final with a camera crew standing around too. But for sure, it was on the back of my mind, but I had to make sure that I didn't make it the focus.
Okay.
So, like I said before, the game plan was going to be a big part of that. I didn't want the same things to happen the year before. So.
Yeah, higher scoring percentage was obviously the game plan, which is, I mean, super solid game plan. I mean, the new trend in foosball, if you think about it, is these high offensive forwards. Tony plays that way. I think Tommy Yor has really kind of shown ultra high offensive game plans can work well. So there's definitely something to be said about that. Now, obviously she has a very active defense. Is it, you started off with that middle. Is it, hey, I want to try and shoot more middles, or just take more of the open hole?
And that's the thing, the middles was one thing that I had scouted before. Just going back to watching a couple videos before, I don't know if it was the year before or whatever it was, but you watch her and she plays the corners way more than she does middles. It's not to say the middles are big, but if you're looking for them, it makes it easier to read for sure. I was looking for them ahead of time. I didn't necessarily know if it was going to open anything up afterwards, but I had an idea going in that it was going to be there. So the only way to really know is just to shoot a couple.
All right. I think that makes perfect sense. She is a force to be reckoned with on a foosball table. There is nice, good push side, to say the least. And you and I kind of talked about this briefly before the whole video concept here started, but I watched this match before you and I are watching it now, just because I was like, I should probably watch this. And this is an incredible match, in my opinion. The adjustments that are made throughout it on both sides of the table are incredible. The game plans on both sides seem to be really, really good. And I do think that women's finals are overlooked by a lot of people that watch foosball. Y'all need to go back and watch this match. This is an incredible, incredible match. I think some light needs to be shed on women's matches a little bit more than they have in the past, because you ladies are playing real well.
Oh, appreciate that. Like, I will say, this is probably one of the better matches that I've ever played on camera. I think I mentioned this to you before. I think it certainly helps that. I don't necessarily know if the cameras helped me to play better or not, but it's certainly, a nice match to catch on film.
Definitely, especially against 40-time world champion Cindy Head.
It's a ridiculous number.
It's insane.
Crazy.
I mean,
I think I'm still looking at middles here.
Yeah. Like I said, you guys make some great adjustments throughout this match. She, I think, realized very early on that you were looking at middles because she changed your defense right away. She's actually also stepped up the tempo a little bit from when the game started. She closed that middle off from where you hit it earlier.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to pause right there.
Yeah.
I've been shooting a bunch from the 2-bar against her. I'm probably not known really as, well, in general, people generally don't think of me as a goalie, but I specifically remember watching this match, or even playing it, and looking at her zone that she had set up for me, thinking I could hit that spray and split her men every single time, and I kept mis-executing it, and it drove me bonkers.
I get that.
It drove me bananas. It was ridiculous.
Okay. No, I love that. This is exactly why we have this ability to pause in real time. I love it. So yeah, I mean, I get it. And you know what? Let's just back up just a touch here, to where you have it back in your goal. Because I think this is a really good opportunity to kind of show it again. Is the slide? You're going for this middle spray, and you can see she just adjusted it. She was intentionally doing. Obviously you misexecuted it a touch because it was still there. But she's intentionally trying to tighten it up a little bit in that quick adjustment. So it's really, really cool to see, like I said, the minor adjustments going on the table in real time.
Yeah. I think a lot of the adjustments that I was making throughout this match, I mean, it'll become more apparent why, but a big part of it was like trying to defend her 2-bar too. I know in the first couple matches, she scores quite a bit on me too. And I think that was probably for me, between the 2-bar shooting and her 3-bar shooting, that was probably one of the biggest adjustments I made throughout the entire match.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's funny because, like, you don't necessarily think of Cindy as, like, a high-scoring goalie, but at the same time, you don't think of her as, like, a defensive goalie either. She just scores from everywhere. So you have to be looking for everything, which honestly is annoying. with most players, their threats are usually one primary thing.
Yeah.
They've got killer spray pull. They've got a nice tuck that's their favorite. But with Cindy, you got to worry about everything, including pin shots, which I'm pretty sure she's the only woman on tour that I've known, at least in North America, that shoots a pin shot.
I was going to say, I don't know of another female that shoots a pin shot at all, at least outside of, like, pickup games. Pickup games don't count. But she also has an incredible transition game, which is why she scores from all over the place. And that's a part of her game plan. Her game plan is clearly to muscle you around the table, try and outspeed you, play solid defense, and pick up as much scrap because she thinks she can run you around the table.
Nope, I agree. And she's probably done that to more than her fair share of players.
Oh, yeah.
I played her enough by now that I wasn't going to let her get to me. So that's one thing. But like I said before, you knew she was going to be quick. You knew she was going to have to jump around and transition. And you have to be on your toes to defend her. Like, honestly, I'd say one of my biggest weaknesses, especially when I'm playing singles, is the minute I shoot for my 2-bar, everybody says you have to get moving, like, even before you release the ball. Because if you don't, the ball's going to land on her 3-bar. It's going to come back flying at you. So another thing that I consciously made the decision to was to make sure you move your feet. You can't just shoot a ball and expect it to, like, land in your 3-bar zone kind of thing. And I've been guilty of doing that way too many times to count.
I get it. You did a great job there in your last shot. You jumped up really, really quick. And there's Cindy doing Cindy things.
Yeah, and there's that 2-bar thing. She was scoring. I don't even know if she intended to score that short goal on me.
So you took a big timeout when you blocked her, which I thought was a really, really smart timeout. Just to be clear, like great momentum, like trying to slow her down in her gameplay because she's such a momentum player, right?
Yeah.
And she's clearly going to do it right back to you.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Cindy. She won't let you try and get away with anything, even if you're not trying to be smug or like cheeky about anything. But she's big on momentum both ways, defensively and offensively. Like I know for me, I took my time out after the big block because I didn't want her to get the ball back and try again and think she had it. I wanted to potentially make her think, yep, I've adjusted a little bit. I can get a block on you. You can't score so easily on me anymore. Because I think the couple that she'd scored on me aside from the two more were like, they were all splits. And she got them pretty clean on me too, even though I thought I was there. So you got to try to stop her any way you can. And it's not easy, for sure.
Well, no, you said she's throwing the kitchen sink at you.
Yeah, and she's going to scream at the table. She's going to scream at you. I'm like, I don't want to give her any more reason to scream at me. Nobody does.
Right.
So that's usually where my timeout strategy comes from. Like, I want to either make sure I'm not going to do anything stupid or try to slow the other person down. I mean, occasionally, for sure, I'll take timeouts to look for a read or try to find something better. But especially against Cindy, momentum is huge.
Yeah, 100%. She's so momentum-based that I feel like taking strategic timeouts against her would be a really good idea. Because she does get so fired up and, come on, Cindy, you know, that kind of stuff all the time, that the only way to get her to, like, not do that is to call, like, precise timeouts and keep her on her toes. Like, keep her on her heels, I should say, not on her toes. You don't want her running forward. And you went back to the middle there.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I was like, you were going back to the middle there. I'm like, you're getting back into the game plan.
Did I go middle there? I thought for sure I went.
Oh, did you? Maybe.
I really don't remember.
I could be blind.
I could be blind too, honestly. So, like, I remember a fair deal from this match, but some things for sure blur together.
Oh, I get that.
But there's for sure, like, Cindy gets the ball in the 5-bar, and she just rolls with a left hook. It doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter to her that I was primarily back there already. But if the ball lands in the right place, she's just going to throw it on net at you. So that, like I said, that's one of those things that I had to prepare for. I mean, I had to defend. The thing is, when you play Cindy in singles, you have to defend her 5-bar with your right hand. Unless you're very aware of where your spacing is on zone defense, if you're defending her in a traditional stance. But because she'll throw the ball at you from every part of the table, like, unless you're very clear on where your men are going to be, it's just, you just can't stop everything.
No, you definitely can't.
And I will say that I do not like defending somebody's 5-bar with my right hand. I can defend with it pretty good. Not like that. I thought that was a spin.
You thought it was a spin?
I thought it might have been close to a spin, but it's one of those things that, like, it's so borderline that you're not going to call it unless you're very sure, because it's like part recoil, part spin.
Yeah, I was gonna say even Terry kind of gave like a little look. Did you see him give that little look?
I did. I saw it in the video afterwards, but I didn't see it when I was at the table, because that's one of the reasons why we have refs at the table. I think I actually specifically asked for refs, because not so much because I think Cindy's gonna cheat me or do whatever, but for such a big match, I didn't want to have to worry about it at all. So even if I did think that was a spin, it wasn't my place to call it.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's one of those scenarios, like, and people always forget, like, you really can't call stuff without a ref there.
Yeah.
And I think people try to, and they argue on the table all the time. If there's even a question, just get a ref, people.
Yep.
You did the right thing, I think, in that part. Like, get 2 refs, just make this an easy thing. You don't have to worry about it. Like you said, I've done it a bunch of times. I get refs anytime I play somebody that I think's even a little shaky on the table, right? I'm a pull shooter, so if I think they're going to start resetting me, I'm just go get a ref.
Yeah.
No point.
Just saves you peace of mind. Like, you have enough to think about when you're on the table between strategy, defense, offense, momentum, all this kind of stuff. The last thing I want to worry about is just whether or not she jarred me.
Exactly.
Like, if you get into an arguing match, especially against somebody like Cindy, you're not going to win.
No. No, you're not.
I guess it depends on your personality for sure. I mean, Cindy's fair. If you're pretty sure that something happened, I think she would give it up. She has for me in past occasions, but I also think it depends on. I Actually, I don't know if I want to say this.
I'll give you this. Here's what I'll say. If it's super borderline, anybody's going to question it on either side. You don't want there to be doubt.
Yeah,
is the bottom line, right? So whether you think, under certain search situations, you never know what anybody's going to do, what a person's going to do on the table, or if they even noticed it. Like, I've been jarred before, and people are like, oh, he jarred you. I'm like, I didn't even notice that time.
Yes, I've been guilty of that for sure. But
Right.
there's plenty of things that I've done before where somebody will mention, like, you did this. I'm like, no, I didn't.
Right.
A month later, the video comes out. You're like, ooh.
I totally did that.
Totally did that. And then I feel guilty about it for like months because I'm generally speaking an honest person, especially on the foosball table. If I think I cheated you, I'll give you the ball back. But yeah, you're right. When you're in the moment, you just really don't necessarily pay attention to it all, which is not a good thing.
No, I think it's a great thing, because you're deep in the match. You're trying to do everything you can to win. I got to give it to you. Your 5-bar is crispy.
Thank you.
I love the series you're running.
Like, honestly, I'd say the favorite part of my game for me is actually my 5-bar. It's like the one thing I'll practice more than anything else.
Great lane, quick wall, great little brush down. I like it. Oh, that went off your weak wall.
Weak wall, back of the man, and in. It was more two-bar goals. That's just the thing. And, like, this first set, so many of our goals came from the 2-bar. And I'm like, that's not something... It's not something you want to give up. Like, if somebody gets 2-bar goals on me, those are easy goals that you shouldn't, maybe not easy. They're goals that are ones that you should try not to give up for sure. I mean, somebody has to get through 4 rods before they score it, and they get that many on you. It's not a recipe for success.
No, you definitely don't want that to happen. You don't want people scoring from their 2-rod. If you can shut down an entire rod for somebody, you're doing work. That one was close. That was a really good one.
That's right. Again, like, I can't quite tell if she was actually making the micro adjustments, but I kept hitting one or the other of the med. I was either hitting the 3-bar goalie rod or the 2-bar, but never quite getting a slice. I think I scored one earlier in the first game.
Yep, you did.
I hadn't since then, and I kept hitting either one of the med. So either she was micro adjusting everything, or I was just really not executing.
It could be a combination of both.
Yeah.
Which is, to me, I think probably the most likely situation. Because I know after you scored the first one, in the very first game, she made a slight adjustment. And you could see it where she she took her hand back there and was like, this isn't my normal set, I want to change it. But the question is, will she continue that throughout the match? That's up for debate, for sure. Because I don't know if she's keeping with her adjustments. Jeez, she's so scrappy. Or if she's just playing, which
and that's the thing, you just can't tell because she's pretty stoic. Aside from like the screaming and cheering on the table, she doesn't really express herself a whole lot. Like if she's disappointed in herself, like unless it's like a blatant turnover or something, you won't know if something's bothering her on the table.
I mean, I know how you're saying that about her, but you are 10 times more stoic than she is so far in this match. You haven't cracked a smile. You haven't, like, made a weird face. Like, nothing. She's bobbed her head a few times on things you've blocked. She's yelling. Like, you are the picture of stoic.
It's funny how that happens, because, like, I'm pretty sure I'm less like that now, and I don't know why.
I was going to say, you are... I mean, look at you. You look like nothing's bothering you at all. And you're just like, oh, I'm just going to go wall here. Don't mind me. A little brush down.
Like, even the goal she scored before this, she kept going split on me. I'll point that out right now. And I know for a fact, like, later on, it's something that I consciously made a point to adjust to. So this is, like, the start of the second set. She was still scoring pretty well. But she, like I said before, like she was getting majority of her goals from the 2-bar, and the ones that she had scored from her 3-bar were all pretty clean. So that was definitely a problem.
I say she just caught you trying to hit that spray middle. And I mean, like, she did make the adjustment.
Yeah, like even here, I'm just gonna pause it here on it. Like a bunch of the last couple goals, like we just started the second set. She's got momentum. She won the first set 2 games straight, even though I had a lead in the first game. And it was frustrating to no end that the first couple goals in this first game of the second set were like quick ones. Like the first one was a little 5-bar hack that I thought I was there for. I think this one was just a blocked fiber pass that went back in.
Yep.
And it was funny, in between sets, we took a little bit of a break, and I was actually talking to Ryan before, and he was giving me a little bit of advice on like what I need to do to get fired up or get intense. And I remember telling him, like, I didn't feel bad about losing the first set, as weird as that sounds. But like, I knew that I was playing well enough, and I just needed to make a couple adjustments. And then I go right back into the first set, and right at the bat, she's got 3 goals to like 1 on me, or 3 goals to none, or whatever on me. And I was just like, what do I gotta do? It's ridiculous. And that stoicism that you're talking about, I knew I needed to not get ahead of myself or get angry, because every time I've played Cinder beforehand, I got frustrated if I fell behind or if I had a lead and fell behind. Every time I got frustrated, things got bad. Like, things would definitely not go my way, instead of like, it wasn't so much as me getting frustrated and trying to play better. It was getting frustrated and then just playing worse.
Yeah, it's called quicksand, is what I've named that. I've talked about it with a bunch of people, and it's that one mistake, it snowballs into another mistake, then you get frustrated, then you don't execute a pass, then all of a sudden you get caught in this quicksand, and you feel like you can't get out, and you're just grasping for nothing. And and you can't pull yourself back to playing that really clean, great foosball. And it sounds like that's kind of what's happening right now.
And that's the thing, like, I say that, but it wasn't necessarily happening. It was a brief moment of saying, I can't believe this is happening, but similar to what we said going into it, you have to have a game plan.
Yeah.
And like I said, the whole quicksand thing that you mentioned, that's probably exactly what happened to me the year before when I lost her in the finals. Like I said, she double dipped me then. I can almost guarantee that's exactly what happened that year before. I got into a funk, things weren't going my way. And instead of trying to like actively fix it on the table, I just kept trying to do things, shoot a little harder, shoot a little quicker, shoot whatever, instead of actually going back to my game plan saying, oh, I'm going to look for this on her defense or this on her 5-bar D timing or things like that. So it wasn't necessarily falling into a trap here, but it's not to say that I haven't done it before. I was just...
Sounds like you learned how to get out of it from the year before is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
That's a big lesson to learn. That's important in foosball, is learning your lessons. I think that's amazing. That's a great thing. You had that problem the year before. You're like, oh crap, I don't want that to happen again. You found a way out of it.
I will say honestly, having this stuff on video is both a blessing and a curse. Though it took me forever before I actually went back to watch last year's match. The previous year's match, to actually study it. Because your losses, when you lose, they hurt so bad. Like, it takes me months before I'll watch a match.
Yeah, they're bitter. There's a whole lot of bitter going. No, it's all good. It's all good.
No, I went off on a tangent, but I was just like, okay, you definitely need to make an adjustment. So that's part of the reason why I paused it, because I think in my head at this moment, I was frustrated with the quick goals, but I told myself, I'm like, hey, make these few small adjustments, especially on 3-bar D. Like, I knew I was playing the loose stuff as well as I could. It's not like I wasn't moving my feet or my hands quick enough to try to stop all the quick shots. But I knew I started making adjustments somewhere along the way here. I just don't know for sure where.
I watched this match earlier. I can tell you're about to make them, just for the record. And they're awesome. So let's jump back in, because I'm actually pumped, because I know exactly what happens here. And it kind of, I think it changes everything.
Yeah. I'd be actually curious to see what you think of it. Like, if it's the same as what I'm thinking I changed. Because sometimes you think you make an adjustment, and to somebody else, it will be like, you didn't do anything different. I'm like, really? Like, in my head, I'm doing all these things. I guess on the table, it doesn't look like I'm doing that. I guess we'll go back. It's one of those things where people watch women's foosball. I know for me, I always think I'm playing much faster than I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's funny is I think I'm playing much slower than I am a lot of times, and I'm playing way too fast.
Funny how that works. Perception is everything.
It is. 100% agree. 100% agree. I know this game doesn't go necessarily as planned, but this is, I think, kind of your turning point. She is now up 1 game. She in the second set, And you can even see it. You kind of like stand there for a second like, okay, what do I need to do? You can see it going through your mind right here. I mean, I don't know if anybody else sees it, but you collect yourself. You collect yourself 100%. Look at this. You 100% collect yourself and say, all right, I'm doing me.
Yeah,
and you go back to your 5-bar game plan here. You take your time, and your passes become, like that one, incredibly crisp.
I don't think I ever focused too much on executing my 5-bar when I played her. So, but the fact that it looks crispy to you two makes me feel a lot better about it. That's for sure. Thanks.
I think it looks great. I think you really start reading really well. You're like I said, you go back to your original game plan. You're like, all right, here's the plan. You just shot middle, which is exactly what I think, and you said before what you should be doing.
It's funny. Cindy went back to the table to look at it. I'm like, you don't think it was there, but when I shot it, it was gaping.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
But she's so active, it's hard to see it because she's so active. For her, it's hard to see for her. For you, it's easier. But look at how much more time you're taking and reading.
See, and she's still giving me the same 2-bar setup. I don't think she's adjusted it over a whole lot, but I'm still shooting it. I'm still hitting her men, so she doesn't have to make a change on it. There's that lean again.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? I don't think a lot of women on tour actually use a brush pass as their series.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, man. Come on. That's so crispy.
I think I waited her out a long time on some of those passes.
She's got great defense.
She moves so fast. That's the
Yeah.
problem. Like, you can work on, like, trying to time a hole, but there's never necessarily a set pattern with her movements, but they are for sure fast. So it's not like, okay, she's giving me a shuffle and I can go now, which makes it definitely harder. But I think I started, but I do walk the ball once in a while just to try to get her to change that timing.
That's the first time you've done that.
It worked, thank goodness.
It did.
Yeah. But I think I changed to doing the back wall pass because, one, I needed more possessions, and two, it wasn't scoring that spray that I was trying to, so I figured, well, if I'm not going to score the ball, I'll try something different.
And I love how you took that extra breath right there, too. I'm not going to lie.
Honestly, I think a lot of people say ready way too quick.
Agreed. 100% agree, actually. That's probably... It's underrated, is all I can say. Very, very underrated.
Yeah. I'm like, I want to be certain that I'm actually ready to play when I say ready. Like, if I'm playing pickups, whatever, but...
And you went back to it and got it again.
I got lucky on that one. It went off her man instead of a wall. But it slowed the ball down enough for me to make catching it a lot easier.
But it's throwing her off her game, is what it's doing. Yeah. She's back on her heels again.
I think I tried short side, hit a 5-bar. That's another thing.
You tightened up your middle defense.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was just going to ask you about that actually, too, because I thought that was one of my adjustments too. Everything she hit on before was a split.
Yep. Nice save from her to getting on her 3. I mean, I know she got it back, but
make her work a little harder.
Yeah, make her work for it.
Yeah. Don't just give it to their 3-bar.
See,
those couple of adjustments made her change her shot.
Yeah, and it frustrated her.
It was the first time she shot a rolling pole that match.
Second. Yeah, she shot a rolling straight.
Okay.
In game 2, I think, of the first set.
But the big thing for me was that it was enough to get her to change it.
Yes. And you got a little scrap ball. That's I think one of your first scrap, like, pick-up shots throughout the whole match, like both sets.
I think I tried a couple earlier.
Yep.
But, like, those attempts were the ones where you're like, oh, you should have picked that ball up because it was nowhere.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised I haven't foot stomped in this match yet.
You haven't what? Foot stomped?
stomp.
Oh. I do that a lot too. I'm guilty. But I think like you've really changed your attitude on the table. Like you've slowed down. You're not you're not rushing your two rod at all. You're playing really smart foosball right now. Like, and that was a great time to do a quick pass.
Quick shot too.
Yeah. I could argue the quick shot both sides. But the quick pass was a great time for that.
There's that scrappy goal again.
Yeah, that was a good one. I wouldn't have read that. That's an interesting one there, but I mean, 4-1 timeout, but it's a big point. I don't care who you are.
No, there was a reason I took that. I'm like, I'm not going to take a timeout on 4-0. I've done it before. I'll say that, but that was honestly an accident. But I took that one because, like I said, it's a momentum thing.
Yeah.
I scored 4 in a row, and the last thing I needed was 1 turning into 2, turning into 3. Because she did come back on me in that very first set in the first game. I think it was up like 4-2. Cindy's come back on me plenty of times where I didn't want to chance it.
Dude, so. I understand. I wouldn't want that to happen either.
And for me, it's a little more comfortable taking a timeout on the 5 bar too, instead of like taking one on the 3, especially on a big point.
I get that. Oh man, I would have had a heart attack on that ball. That's the first time she has blocked your 5 bar in the last 2 games.
And then she gave it right back to me, though. So
yep.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I think that's the first break I got the entire match, too.
Outside of the off the back wall sort of break, but yes, you're 100% right.
Like, break in terms of goal.
Yeah,
that was
then
like the first swap I got.
100%.
It's a good time to get one for game win. Or is that the start of the game winner? Yeah.
Yeah, first goal of the game.
Getting mixed up.
You changed your zone.
I put my left hand back on the goalie rods. Like, I was comfortable with my 2-bar zone when I kept it. And she was scoring on me because I kept moving. And that's the thing. She moves the ball so much back and forth that you're adjusting all the time. And all it takes is one wrong adjustment, and you've got, like, a gaping short side for her to hit.
Yeah.
I think she did that to me to end the first set. Or was it the first game, the second set? Honestly, I don't know. But that's the thing. Like, she'll move the ball back and forth quite a bit. And I figured after a while, it was easier for me to move my goalie hand back and forth than it was to try to adjust that 5-bar and
it's working.
Potentially leave a hole. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but if you think about it, she was scoring the majority of her goals from her 2-rod before, and now you've cut that down. Even though she just scored one, right? She's frustrated by it. You can tell she doesn't like that you put a hand back there.
Right there. I don't know. Did you see that at all?
Which part? Where you shake your head or where it's stuck on the wall?
Both. I don't know if we can go back a little bit.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. It was funny. I took a timeout here, but like the reason I took a timeout, nothing got called, and it was like I said, it would come back to the same thing where it's like a borderline call where I thought she might have reset me.
Okay.
And it was enough for me to, instead of executing the pass, I pinned it. I didn't pin it intentionally.
Right. I kind of want to see if she does reset you, actually. I'm going to pay real close attention to this.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's so hard to tell when you're not on the table for a reset.
Yeah.
But, oh yeah, 100%. I would agree with you. I think she did.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. Rue is really good about that stuff.
Yeah. I think it was one of those things that was just close enough that unless you're sure, he wasn't going to call it.
Yeah. Like, kind of just let him play moment.
Yeah.
Wow. That's the first time I think you've done that pass, too.
I think so. I think I'm pretty much stuck with the brush the entire time.
And stick, yeah. You've done a little bit of the stick series. You've done some brushes. I mean, but that was your first push kick pass or high lane pass, depending on who you talk to.
Same thing.
Yeah. Oh, she spun it?
Yeah,
Ooh.
she tried to go for like a pin / shot. So, and her hand came off it.
Oh.
And it was enough to spin. But I think she hurt herself a little bit on here too. But I'm surprised she didn't ask for more time.
Yeah, I was going to say, she could have had a medical.
Could have been an adrenaline thing too.
Oh.
You play to a certain point and you just want to keep going.
Dang, that's her best pull side of the match.
I would agree. I think it was. She adjusted for sure because I was covering that middle pretty tightly at that point too.
Oh yeah,
But
and it's
they
what she
weren't
shot the whole match. That was.
I tried a quick left hook before that. And didn't.
Yeah, but that lane was nasty.
Honestly, even watching these matches back now, and you try to read the defense, like until you, like I have to go back multiple times just to see if I'm hitting what I think I'm hitting. Ooh.
Oh no! I thought you had it. That was so good.
I put a little extra juice on that clear, and it went the wrong way.
That's called adrenaline. That's what that is. Oh, wow. Cindy's not giving up.
No, I wouldn't expect her to.
Dang.
Best push side she hit in the match, too.
Yeah, it is. She's not messing around. Wow. Like I said before, this is such a great match.
You know what's funny? I still get nervous watching this.
Oh, I bet. Do you ever think that you're going to get like a different outcome when you watch it?
Sometimes. I mean, it would explain why my heart rate kind of does what it does sometimes when I watch it. But
I've got some matches that I go back where I've lost, and I go back and watch it. I'm like, man, I was playing so good. How did I lose this match? And I'm like, I win this match, right? Oh my gosh, you two are just going at it right now. You're still executing your game plan, just for the record. You just went back to the middle again, and you've made her change her game plan. She tried to go back to it there with that middle again, and you were all over it.
I think she went quicker that time, too. I don't know if that was for a reason or if it was just, I'm just going to try it on different timing.
My guess is she was trying to outpace you. She's trying to get back into fast transition game to get you to play fast.
Like her game speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she's trying to change your gameplay because your gameplay is you're playing at your pace right now. She wants to try and get you to speed up and make mistakes. Would be my guess.
Makes sense. Ooh, finally.
Nice.
Finally.
And such a great time to hit it. Such an important point going up 4-3.
I'd actually be curious to see if we can go back and see what her setup on that was like.
I can do this. We have the power. You block her with the quick middle.
I think she opened it a tad more for me.
Let's take a peek here. Let me see if I can pause it before you shoot it. Oh, I can't see that back guy really.
Like, it's hard for me to say unless we actually go back further, but I feel like her 2-bar man is out a little further than it had been before.
I would agree. I don't know. I think it's actually the same. Or it's very close. I think you just crunch it. I'll be honest. I think you hit it really, really well.
I mean, like you said, the timing of it couldn't have come at a better time, but
Definitely.
I've been trying, like I said, I've been trying that like the entire first set.
Yes.
And it just wasn't going. So.
All right. I want to watch you hit it again. Oh, we were at the wrong one.
Well, that's a good sign.
That actually is a good sign because that's at least I'm recognizing that it's the same location. That's hilarious. All right, here we go. You're right. It is a touch further out. Not much.
Enough. Let's see where it goes in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was just enough. Whereas before, I probably would have clipped like the toe of the man.
Yeah. And it's a tiny, tiny bit.
Ooh, that was a nice pass.
It really
Cindy's
was.
got so many options off of her tic-tac.
She really does.
High lane, low lane, extra high lane, top side, bottom side. They're everywhere.
Clearly she needed to take that time out. But no, on her 5, you're right, just for the record. She's hit you up and down the table with different passes.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, we'll go back to it. I have to defend her with my right hand because she'll go from everywhere. But at the same time, it's the same thing. You're used to diving, like, for the typical player, you cover a wall and, like, a slightly high lane pass. And maybe, like, that extra high lane middleman pass. But with Cindy, she'll go everywhere.
Yeah. You're sticking with the defensive game plan. No middles.
Yeah.
And she went back to it.
You know, I hadn't, up until now, I hadn't watched this match in a few years. Feels good. Oh, hit the man again. I think at that point I was just trying to dump it. She's still giving me that wall pass too, though.
She is.
And I didn't take it. I don't know why I didn't take it. I'm curious.
It's not an easy one, though, with the way her guy's set.
I think I probably would have pumped it into her goalie man again. I did it with possession before that, too.
Nice wall. Nice brush down.
Yeah.
Jeez, that was way up there.
I think that's the pass that I did multiple times this match. Just because, like, I had to wait extra long. She was catching my brush passes down to the wall. Maybe not catching them,
Just
but
getting
she was getting
slinkies.
enough of them. Yeah.
That's such a big adjustment. You putting your hand back there made all the difference in the world. She doesn't get any of the slops, any of the stuff kicking off of a guy.
I'm actually surprised it didn't go in that last possession. It rolled across the goal my mouth. The mouth of the goal. And, like, I think if I'd panicked even just a little bit, I would have knocked it in on myself.
I've done it before. I know exactly what you're talking about. And it hurts your feelings every time. There's the long rolling pull.
Yeah.
Which I honestly, as her, like, I would have expected that to go in because of how much you've been blocking the middle. So, again, great defense. Boy, she does not want to give you that spray. And she made the adjustment back, by the way. She's moved it back just that touch more.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she even tightened it up with the goalie guy.
Like, I didn't even notice the micro adjustments that you were talking about until I'm watching this again. Like, a lot of people won't make tiny adjustments. They'll just set it until it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. People don't... Wow, what a great match.
Still get goosebumps watching this a little bit.
I've got them right now, 100%. 100% right now.
I contemplated taking a timeout there, and then I just got the ball and I figured, screw it, I'm gonna take a shot and go for it confidently if I see it. I think I barely beat her man to that hole too.
I said you can, when you hear it, you can hear just ever so slight that, you know that noise it makes when you perfectly hit the corner, and it doesn't.
Like,
you don't get full tin, you get like partial tin.
yeah.
That's exactly what you hear on that shot. And I think it's awesome. I personally think that was a great match. I think that, like I said, the micro adjustments in that match were phenomenal on both sides of the table. And like I said, it's not something that when you think of a women's world championships finals, you don't think of those things. Like, I think a lot of people just like overlook them. They don't give it that time of day, which they really, really should. 'Cause in that match, you see it all. You see adjustments on the 5. You see adjustments on the 3. You see adjustments in zones. Adjustments on the 2-rod. And execution of game plans. I think that is one of those matches that you could go back and learn something new almost every time you watch it.
Like, I learned some stuff watching it today. Like you said, bringing up a couple of those adjustments, and like even I didn't see it until you mentioned it. So
it's crazy.
Like you said, it's such a crazy game of, like, it's not even a game of inches. Golf is a game of inches. Like,
Right.
foosball is ridiculous.
Oh yeah, millimeters. It's a game of millimeters. It's the difference between a goal and not a goal.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I absolutely I loved it. I love that match. That will honestly go down as probably one of my favorite matches to watch. Period. Just awesome to me.
Sweet. Made a list.
You did. You totally did. And you and I, for the record, have never actually even spoken until today. Not like had a conversation. So it's been more than enjoyable.
Oh, that was fun.
I loved it. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really, honestly loved watching this match with you. I love getting the insight from one of the greatest women players on the planet currently. Do you have any? Are you going to be touring in 2021, or is COVID going to stop everybody, or what do you think is going to happen in the near future?
I honestly don't think I'm going to be touring in 2021. I mean, maybe towards the end of the year, but with the way things are going right now, I'm not entirely sure it's going to happen. Travel restrictions are pretty tight up here, and even just from city to city, I'm in that mindset where, you know, do your part, stay home, do all that kind of stuff. But yeah, travel restrictions have been they've actually just ramped up recently too. So between needing a negative test, I think you actually need a negative test to land in the States now. I'm not sure. You could correct me on that.
No idea.
But coming home, like, you have, like, as it stands right now, like, if I wanted to go to Vegas right now, you'd have to, flying out might not be a problem, but if I wanted to fly back, I'd have to get a negative test within 3 days of flying home. And then when you get home, you actually have to quarantine in a hotel and then get, like, a couple more tests on top of that. And it can get pretty pricey. I'm like,
wow.
foosball tournaments are expensive enough.
Yeah.
If I've got to pay for a government quarantine hotel kind of thing on top of that, plus days off work, although I guess I could work remotely, I'm like, it's just not financially
Yeah, it doesn't
feasible.
make sense. I totally get it. It totally makes sense in my opinion. So,
and it's a bummer. Like, I miss playing so much. Like, I haven't even been able to play locally. Like, we've had increased restrictions here since, like, the end of November. So aside from playing at my table at home, even locally, we haven't been able to get together with anybody to play. So,
oh man, bummer. I think I've said this a couple times with other people as well. I think post-COVID, we're gonna get this group of people that are like highly practiced and like really dangerous on a foosball table because they've been basically stuck in their basements for the last like 2 years. They won't have the experience, but they will be highly practiced. So they'll be able to execute everything and be real dangerous.
See, and I'm really skeptical about that because, well, I guess it depends on your personality. I'm not, like, at practice, but I need a purpose to do more intense practice. But, like, I'll do my 5-bar every day for, like, 15 minutes because I love it. But getting me to shoot, like, 100 rollovers in a day, no, it's not going to happen.
Okay, so you're not like me. I'm somebody that'll sit on a table for hours and hours just because I enjoy it.
I enjoy it to a certain extent. I also live in a condo, so I have to be pretty conscious about the noise I'm making to my neighbors below me.
Gotcha. Yeah, I live in the middle of Tennessee, nowhere, so I could yell and scream out the backyard. Nobody's going to know.
Yeah. But I'm actually skeptical about the level of play when we come back, because there will be a level of practice, but even watching some of the streams from the tournaments that have been held, I'm like, there's a lot of rust, because, like I said, nothing substitutes for actual tournament play.
No, nothing.
Yeah. Like, I went for, I think between March last year and like July, I didn't have a get-together with any of our locals until late July. And yeah, I'd practiced and I'd done some things here and there, but then when we got back to the table playing doubles or singles or even, like, all those little things were terrible. I mean, and terrible by our standards, by like tour player standards, but like picking up a loose ball or trying to catch a quick stick lane, like these little things that are of like accuracy is just not there. I'm like trying to shoot on a rollover defense for a certain timing. I'm like, so am I supposed to shoot at the hole or at the man? And like those little things just disappeared. And then it took me a couple months before I got it back, and then we went down into stricter restrictions again. So I'm genuinely curious to see what the level of play is like when things do go back.
I am too. I'm excited personally because I'm going to start touring again, which is going to be a rare feat to see. You'll see me somewhere eventually, and I'm honestly looking forward to it. So hopefully you and I can actually meet in person and not remotely. And I plan on someday possibly doing this entire show with real people in a real room together. So maybe someday. Fingers crossed.
Those are the dreams. It's funny how things change over time. I'm like, what do you really want to happen? I'm like, in-person Zoom calls.
Exactly right. Well, again, thank you so much for joining me today. That wraps up our show for the evening, folks. Thank you so much for watching. And ladies and gentlemen, happy foozin'.